Look at a modern map of Pakistan, and you'll find Sindh in the southeast. It's overwhelmingly Islamic, roughly 91% Muslim. Yet, despite sharing the state religion, a significant portion of natives want out. The nationalist movement Sindhudesh is fighting to form an independent country. And the situation gets stranger when you look across the border into India. There, millions of displaced Hindu refugees and their descendants still speak the exact same Sindhi language, pray to the same regional saints, and hold a deep longing for a homeland they haven't seen in decades. To the people of Sindh, their true identity rarely rested on religious labels. Instead, it was tied entirely to their soil, their shared vocabulary, and the lifeblood of the region, the Indus River. To understand how modern borders fractured such a highly unified culture, we have to travel back 5,000 years to the cradle of civilization itself. Roughly 5,000 years ago, the waters of the Indus River gave rise to the Indus Valley Civilization. This was a highly advanced society, characterized by immense wealth, sprawling urban centers, and extensive trade networks that reached far beyond South Asia. You can see that sophistication in artifacts like the seal. The detailed carvings and the ancient characters left behind prove the region was a bustling hub of commerce and communication long before modern nations existed. For the next 4 millennia, Sindh absorbed wave after wave of influence, from Mauryan Buddhists and Kushan Silk Road traders to the Rai dynasty. But a deep political fracture emerged in the 7th century, when the throne passed to a Hindu king named Raja Dahir. By declaring Hinduism the state religion, Dahir marginalized the long-established Buddhist community, creating a dangerous internal divide. That friction provided an opening for the first major Islamic invasion. In 712 AD, the Umayyad Caliphate sent a young commander named Muhammad bin Qasim. Qasim exploited the resentment of the local Buddhists, who reportedly helped him navigate the region's defenses, allowing him to conquer Sindh and end Dahir's rule. While the conquest was a violent political shift, the cultural reality was more complex. The locals didn't simply erase their past, they blended the new Islamic faith with their native traditions, resulting in a unique, syncretic culture that defied rigid religious definitions. You can see this blending in the historical figure of Julie Lal. He is a saint who preached that the divine was accessible to all, and today he remains the most significant spiritual anchor for both Sindhi Hindus and Sindhi Muslims. Over 5,000 years, the region weathered countless invasions and regime changes. Throughout these shifts, the people maintained a shared, localized identity that prioritized their land and language over the religious labels of their rulers. This ancient regional unity faced a new kind of pressure in 1843 when the British annexed Sindh. For their own administrative ease, the British merged Sindh into the broader Bombay Presidency, placing its governance under a distant hub. This bureaucratic merger fundamentally changed the political math of the region. Within the massive Bombay Presidency, Sindhi Muslims became a minority, and they began to fear that their economic and political interests would be permanently overshadowed by the Hindu majority centered in Bombay. These fears became the focal point of negotiations with the British. During the Round Table Conferences of the 1930s, the Muslim League successfully pushed for the separation of Sindh from Bombay, arguing that Muslims needed their own province to ensure their political safety. This administrative split became a primary tool for Muhammad Ali Jinnah. He used the newly independent Sindh as a testing ground for his two-nation theory, arguing that Hindus and Muslims were not just different religions, but separate nations that could never share a single government. The messaging worked because it focused on survival. It persuaded many native Sindhi Muslims that their future security depended entirely on the creation of a separate, religiously defined state, rather than a shared regional identity. This ideological campaign culminated in 1947. British Governor-General Lord Mountbatten oversaw the final partition plan, which officially split the subcontinent and assigned the entire province of Sindh to Pakistan. By placing Sindh inside the Bombay Presidency and then separating it based on communal demands, the British changed how the people saw themselves. A regional identity that had lasted for millennia was replaced by a modern political system where religion was the only metric for power. The immediate result of that political decision was a human catastrophe. Over 1 million Sindhi Hindus, fearing they would no longer be safe in a state defined purely by Islam, were forced to flee their homes overnight. They left behind centuries of history, crowding into the harbor at Karachi to board ships heading for India. These were families who had lived on this land for generations, now suddenly rendered as stateless refugees. In India, these refugees had to start from scratch. They built new lives in camps and cities like Ulhasnagar, working to preserve their language and culture while living in permanent exile from the river that defined them. But in Pakistan, the Sindhi Muslims who had supported partition soon faced a different reality. To replace the departing Hindus, millions of Urdu-speaking migrants, known as muhajirs, arrived from India and settled in Sindh's economic hubs. Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan, himself a migrant, spearheaded policies that favored these new arrivals. They were given control of the homes, businesses, and government positions once held by the Sindhi Hindu elite, rapidly displacing the native population from their own cities. The cultural marginalization went further. The central government mandated Urdu as the only official language, effectively making the 5,000-year-old Sindhi language secondary in its own birthplace, and locking native speakers out of the national administration. This feeling of being a stranger in one's own home fueled the modern Sindhudesh movement. Led by figures like G.M. Syed, native Sindhis began to actively protest against what they see as the systematic erasure of their culture by the central government. The leaders of 1947 believed they could resolve ancient tensions by drawing a border based on religion, but the ongoing unrest in Sindh shows that lines on a map cannot easily overwrite an identity built over 5,000 years by the banks of the Indus.